A boring hour can feel endless. 3 normal adult months can disappear in one ugly glance at the calendar. Same brain. Opposite problem. Try this. Remember the second week of last month, not the fact that it existed. Tuesday. What you ate first. What the light looked like when you got home. What your hands were doing at 4 p.m. Most of it is gone. That is the problem. In 1890, William James noticed something brutal about this. He wrote that as we grow older, days and weeks start collapsing because more and more of life becomes routine. More than a century later, modern neuroscience is still circling the same answer from different angles. Time is not speeding up. Your memory is getting pickier. Call it memory thinning. That is what happens when your brain stops giving ordinary life full resolution and starts compressing it like a cheap file format. Childhood gets archived in ridiculous detail. Adulthood gets stored as email, errands, some stress, probably Tuesday. And yes, people love the simple explanation for this. Each year becomes a smaller percentage of your life. When you are 10, 1 year is 10%. When you are 40, it is 2.5%. Neat, elegant, probably part of the story. Also not enough, because that theory explains math. It does not explain experience. It does not explain why 1 week on vacation feels long in memory while 3 months at work vanish like they were eaten by a machine. It does not explain why childhood summers feel enormous and last Tuesday feels legally unprovable. For that, you need to look at how the brain builds time in the first place. Your brain does not experience time like a clock. It experiences time through change. New places, new faces, new risks, new emotions, new decisions. The more distinct mental markers a period contains, the longer it feels when you look back on it. That is why childhood felt huge. Everything was new. A classroom smelt specific. A grocery store felt gigantic. One school trip could dominate your internal life for 2 weeks. A child is basically a memory factory with shoes. The brain is tagging everything because it does not know what matters yet. So it records more. Denser memory. Longer life in retrospect. An adult Tuesday does not get that treatment. You wake up in the same room, walk the same route, check the same apps, answer the same kinds of messages, use the same phrases, eat some version of the same lunch. You were busy, yes. Busy is not the same as memorable. That line matters. Busy is not the same as memorable. Routine is efficient. It is also an amnesia machine. This is where modern life makes the whole thing worse. In 2023, Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine, published work showing that office workers switch screens or tasks in well under a minute on average before moving again. Your attention is being chopped into tiny pieces all day long, which sounds like a lot is happening. It is not. It is the same mental room with different tabs open. And chopped attention creates weak memory. Weak memory creates fewer landmarks. Fewer landmarks create memory thinning. Then you look up in October and feel personally betrayed by the calendar. Because the month was full. It just was not distinct. Now here is where it gets stranger. Novel events often feel fast while they are happening, and long after they are over. Routine events often feel slow while they are happening, and short once they are gone. That sounds backward. It is backward. Your brain is annoying like that. In 2007, neuroscientist David Eagleman at Baylor College of Medicine studied what happens when people experience terrifying freefall. Subjects dropped from a tower over 100 feet high reported that the fall seemed to last longer than it actually did. But when researchers tested whether perception itself had literally sped up in the moment, it had not. The brain was not running in super slow motion like an action movie. It was recording more. Dense memory after the fact creates the feeling that the event lasted longer. That matters, because it gives you the real answer to the title. The reason time feels faster now is not just that you are older. It is that your brain is recording less texture. That is the central reframe. The speed up is happening in memory, not in time. And once you see that, an ugly number of modern habits start making sense. Doom scrolling. Autopilot commutes. binge watching 6 episodes that leave behind one vague blob in memory, answering 50 messages and remembering none of them, whole work weeks spent doing things that leave no dent, because the attention was too fragmented and the experiences too interchangeable to get stored properly. Your life starts to blur because the brain learns what it can safely compress. This is also why certain years suddenly feel huge again. The year you moved cities, the year someone died, the year you fell in love, the year a child was born, the year everything went wrong. Those years are dense. They cut hard enough to leave edges. The brain remembers edges. Smooth years disappear. And now the slightly more depressing part. A lot of what adults call time anxiety is really memory anxiety. It is not just that life feels fast. It is that life feels insufficiently marked. You were there for it, technically. But the brain did not stamp enough of it deeply enough to make it feel lived in afterward. That is why you can be exhausted and still feel like nothing happened. Something did happen. Your nervous system paid for it. Your calendar proved it. Your inbox would be thrilled to testify. But memory is not a secretary. Memory is a ruthless editor. It keeps contrast. It keeps emotion. It keeps novelty. It keeps surprise. The rest gets shaved down for parts. The clock stayed honest, your brain did not. Which is why childhood looked endless. Childhood had firsts everywhere. First humiliation. First obsession. First big fear. First friend who mattered. First summer that felt like the entire world. Adults still have meaningful moments, obviously, but a lot of adulthood gets built out of repeated templates. Same kinds of meetings, same kinds of errands, same kinds of screens glowing in the same tired face. No wonder it speeds up. The brain has seen this episode before, and just to make it worse, artificial light and digital life flatten your internal sense of passage even more. Morning, afternoon, evening, midnight, all now happen under roughly the same glow, with the same posture, while your thumb performs its little ritual over glass. The body used to receive stronger signals about change. Dark meant dark. Silence meant silence. The day had edges. Now the edges are softer. Softer edges leave weaker marks. Memory thinning again. So if this year already feels like it is falling through your hands, that does not necessarily mean you are broken, lazy, or failing at adulthood. It may just mean your brain has become efficient in a world built to be repeated. That is useful for productivity. It is terrible for the feeling of being alive. And that is the real insult here. We built a life optimized for convenience, repetition, and frictionless routine, then acted surprised when the month started slipping past without leaving much behind. The years did not become shorter, they became smoother. Your life did not speed up. Your brain just started skimming.